Hey everybody, I'm going to make this video a little shorter than last time. I don't have as much to talk about, even though I could probably talk for a long time about the things that are going on in the class. But I've, you know, written things out and prepared things for you so that I don't have to talk a whole bunch. But I do want to respond to some of the work that's been going on. I just got done reading the comments and the posts in the week 8 discussion about structural injustice and from Iris Marion Young. And I think it's really important to continue to think about that idea, especially in relationship to her other article, her other article, Five Faces of Oppression, and then trying to link it back to the idea of Bobby Harrow's cycle of socialization. All of these things that you encounter throughout your life in terms of structural entities and structural pressures lead into your socialization. So continue to think about how your own personal identity is directly related to some of these structures. Something that I thought came out of those discussions that was really important and is going to be the main thing that I'm going to discuss here is that some possible topics for the Global Solutions essay popped out of the discussion, and the things that are related very directly to the idea of structural injustice, but also very related to our own communities and how we participate in this structure and how we push boundaries sometimes, and then also how boundaries are created for us and put pressure on us. So I thought some of the interesting ideas that popped out were especially a lot of people talked about the unintended consequences of structural injustice. So that's something to continue to pay attention to, is how do these things that are created by well-meaning people, the idea of a minimum wage, which was originally just a guideline to try to show like you can't go any lower than this, but it wasn't supposed to be expected to be the thing that people live on, right? It wasn't the livable wage. It never was designed to be. One of the students in the class made that point. I thought that was a really good point to bring up, that some of these structures are created to like provide a minimum, not necessarily what is expected or what should be expected, but just a very, very low level of a safety net. So what is it that we really should be entitled to as people in terms of human rights? Also, here's some other topics that I thought were really interesting to look at as you start to tackle the idea of a global problem. School debt and college tuition and things like that. You could use the examples that we have here in the United States and compare them to what's going on in other countries. How if you're paying out-of-state tuition, look at some of the difference between if you're an international student trying to go to a U.S. School. It's even more expensive than out-of-state tuition. Something else to take a look at is that idea of homelessness and housing issues, right? Take a look at some housing issues in some other countries and see how it compares to the United States. And how homelessness is another form of displacement. Essentially, refugees are homeless and have been forced out of their home for whatever reason. Think about the violent acts that do that, but then also think about the structural injustices that were mentioned by a lot of students about things going on, right here in Boise or Idaho or wherever you may be living, in terms of raising rents and people being forced out and properties being sold and things like that. Other issues that came up that were really interesting were veterans issues. Very important issues to take a look at, and they do normally have an international connection because a lot of veterans have to go serve abroad. And so how do we deal with people coming back potentially with post-traumatic stress disorder, potentially with physical injuries, and how do we welcome people who have sacrificed parts of their lives for the protection of the country back into society after they've potentially seen some very difficult things? It's an important idea to tackle. The idea of, we talked about minimum wage a little bit, the idea of healthcare costs and childcare costs, the importance of voting, and then ultimately one of the things that I thought popped up that was really interesting was the difficulty of standing up to structural injustice. I mean, it is a heavy machine that has a lot of inertia, and most of the time one person can't make the big difference, but one person that makes a difference to another person, that makes a difference to another person, and it starts to multiply out. That's what can create structural and social change. So I'd like you to continue to keep thinking about that. Like, how do we collectively, as a group of people, I think we're down to about 18 or 19 students now, or 20 that are actively participating in the class. What is the impact that this group of 20 people could have on, 2 or 3 more people each? To start to multiply some of these ideas. Our discussions are getting more complex. I'm impressed by how people are starting to work in complex ideas that span the entire semester, all the way back to the beginning in terms of ethics, through the ideas of socialization, and now into the diversity topics that we're getting into. So I just love to see that progression over the course of the semester, and how people are continuing to get better and better and better, and being better teachers for each other. So continue to work on that, and I will continue to provide as much feedback as I can, and start offering some more videos like this. That's about all I have to say for now. I look forward to reading some drafts of the Global Solutions essay coming up soon, and the finished drafts or the finished final versions of the Code of Ethics analysis essays. So hope everything's going well. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.